and say yeah, and say yeah, and say yeah. One night in town, my niggas round, throwing money, them bitches hit the ground, then bring it back up, she bring it back up.
Welcome back, guys, to your Inside the GBL show for week number 7. This week we're going to be taking a look at last week's action, or 2 weeks ago's action, since we had a bye last week for Father's Day. We're going to look at some of the league leaders, look at the standings and the playoff race, and then we're going to take a look ahead towards Sunday's games and see how the playoff race changes after week 7. First things first, let's talk about what happened last week. In the first 2 games, the Lightning took on the Bird Gang. Both teams desperately needed wins. Both teams needed sweeps, but that did not happen. In the first game, Bird Gang held control of the game 3-0 early in the bottom of the third. Lightning came back with 1 in the 4th inning, and then in the top of the 5th, it was all but over, but the Lightning came back with 4 in the top of the 5th inning, and they ended up winning the game 5-3. The player of the game for that one will be, and it looks like Derek Rivas. Went 3 for 8 with a home run and 1 RBI with 2 innings pitched and 3 hits allowed. He only gave up 0 earned runs. So when he came in relief, he shut the door on the Bird Gang and he got the Lightning a win. That's really good for the Lightning, but in the next game, they needed to capitalize on their first win, but they didn't. The Lightning scored 1 in the first, Bird Gang scored 1 in the 4th, and then the real action took place in the second game in the last inning. In the top of the 5th, the Lightning scored 4 runs to take a 5-1 lead heading into the bottom of the 5th. And this is where the Bird Gang needed to shine. If they would have lost this game, they would have been pretty much out of the playoff race. But they came back with 5 in the bottom of the 5th inning and ended up winning 6-5 and split the games with the Lightning. And the player of the game for the second game would be Lucas Baker, 3 for 7, 0 home runs, and 4 RBIs, with 3 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, and 1 earned run. So he was player of the game there in Game 2. And then this is what Matt Zarowski, the manager of the Bird Gang, had to say on Bird Gang's day. Here, take a listen.
Exciting Game 1 comeback. How do you feel about your team now almost halfway through the season?
You know what, man, I'm feeling good. I just wish we can get a full team out here every week. We should have took the first game of that one. I wanted to sweep real bad, but you know we can't. We showed some resiliency and fight in the second game, and you know we took the split.
All right, thanks, bud.
Thank you.
All right, that was Matt Zarowski talking about the day the Bird Gang had. They're now going to be 4-8, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 4-8. And the Lightning are 4-6. We'll get back to the standings in just a little bit. In the second 2 games, the Nighttime Ninjas took on the Taka Drivers, and you'd think it'd be an even matchup in Game 1, but the Taka Drivers came out on fire, and they ended up winning the game 12-1, 12-2. I'm sorry, 11 of the earned runs they got were against the Mike Kabaki Jr. And Mike didn't do so well on the mound this week. He's in one of the top categories in league leaders in wins this season. He's got 4. His ERA's got a skyrocket after this week. But they ended up mercy ruling him, and the Nighttime Ninjas couldn't keep up with the Taka Drivers in Game 1. Ethan Arve had to say something about his adjustments for Game 2. This is what he had to say. Greg Popovich right here.
Right, what
What kind of adjustments? Yeah, what kind of adjustments you make in Game 2? Hit better.
All right, so that was Ethan Arve. As you can say, hit better. Obviously, that would work. So the player of the game in Game 1 for the Taka Drivers and Nighttime Ninjas was Jackson Buzia. He got 1 home run. He went 6 for 7 with 6 RBIs and won the game on the mound with 3 innings pitched and only giving up 2 earned runs and 4 hits. So he was the player of the game for the Taka Drivers in Game 1. This is Jackson, actually the player of the game for that game, on the matchup with the Nighttime Ninjas going into Game 2. Let's see what he had to say about it.
Another big win over the Nighttime Ninjas. What can you contribute to this? Do you have a good matchup?
I don't know. We just hit the ball well from the beginning, got off to a hot start, and yeah, That's all we could ask for.
Alright, so that was buzz about the Nighttime Ninjas matchup. So going into the second game, the Taka Drivers felt very confident that they'd be able to get their first sweep of the season and make the Nighttime Ninjas fall from reality because they're doing really good this season. So in the second game, Mike Kabaki Jr. sent out Ethan Arve on the mound, one of the league's better players, an early MVP favorite. And he shut the door on the Taka Drivers. He only allowed one hit in 3 innings. And in his relief, Sammy Kruchek only allowed 1 hit in 2 innings. And they ended up winning the game 4-0 by scoring 2 in the first and insurance runs at 2 in the fifth. So that's all the Nighttime Ninjas needed. So they capitalized and showed some resiliency after getting blown out in Game 1 to come back in Game 2 and take a split with the Taka Drivers. And so the player of the game in that game would be Ethan Arve. He was 2 of 5 for 1 home run and 3 RBIs. And as I said earlier, he only allowed 1 hit in 3 innings pitched and got the W without giving up any earned runs. Kabaki struggled during the day. Ever since the NWLA tournament, he's got a post-NWLA slump. He had a little words to say about his struggles and see if he can fix them very soon. This is what Mike had to say.
Been struggling the last couple of weeks. What can you do to improve on your game, or what's going on?
Well, I had the regionals at the NWLA. There's a 9 feet difference in the pitching mound to home plate, different balls, different timing mechanisms, everything. I think it threw me off a pinch. I also got really bad sun poisoning, which I didn't know was a real thing until this past weekend. So the whole week's been a little rough. It's been a little down. The last games I played 2 weeks ago against the Stallion we were dealing with some really, really bad weather. They were 2 low-scoring games. So, I don't look too much into that. Today was a hitter's day, but I just couldn't put the bat on the ball. My timing was there, just not my form. I just got to work harder. I'll be back next week, ready for more.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, and then the last 2 games of the day, our nightcap was a rematch from Week 1's nightcap. We had the Gas House Gorillas taking on the Stallionaires, and Game 1 was really exciting. It was one of the better games of the season. The Stallionaires struck early with 3 in the second inning. Then after that, the Gas House Gorillas got 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth, and 1 in the fifth to tie the game 3-3. So when Matt Kuna came in the game, you thought it was all but over, but they showed very good patience, waited for their pitches, and got a run on each inning to tie the game going into the bottom of the fifth. And then it was deja vu all over again for the Gas House Gorillas. Jeremy Radishak had to go up against Nate Bryan in the first batter in the bottom of the fifth. Back in Week 1, and it's in an extra inning affair in the second game of the season, Nate Bryan hit a 2-run bomb in the top of the 9th inning and give the Stallionaires a 2-0 lead against the Gas House Gorillas, and that was proved to be enough. Going back to last week, Nate Bryan did it again. He had a solo walk-off home run against Jeremy Radishak, and the Stallionaires ended up winning the game 4-3. So our player of the game for that game is going to go to Nate Bryan. He was 1 for 5, 1 home run, and 1 RBI. Player of the game wins the game. There you go. So this is what Nate had to say on his walk-off home run. Let's take a listen.
No, it's not even a
Nate, another walk-off against Jeremy Radishak. Is there something with Radishak's pitching that is allowing you to get more walk-offs against him?
No, sometimes he just he makes a mistake with the fastball up, and I just capitalized on it and took the ball up the middle, and I was fortunate for it to go out.
You guys won Game 1 with that walk-off. In Game 2, what happened? Lost 9-0.
Oh, I don't know. They just found their niche at the plate, and we just couldn't get any hits. So.
All right, thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
Problem.
All right, so that was Nate on his walk-off home run against the Gas House Gorillas. In the second game, the Gas House Gorillas took on the Stallionaires once again in our nightcap. And this time, things were a little different. The Gas House Gorillas caught fire. In specifics, Jeremy Radishak caught fire. He had 5 home runs during this game. And it was pretty much over before it even started. Gas House Gorillas scored a run in every inning. Jeremy Radishak and Jim Tucker hit lights out, and they pitched lights out as well, shutting down the Stallionaires and only holding them to exactly that many. And our player of the game for that game is obviously Jeremy Radishak. He went 6 for 11 with 5 home runs and 8 RBIs. In 2 innings pitched, he only gave up 0 hits and 0 earned runs. So congrats to all the players of the games. And this is what Rat had to say about the nightcap after losing game 1, then winning game 1 almost by himself, winning game 2 almost by himself. This is what he had to say.
6 home runs today, Kamish. How do you feel, man? After a big performance after losing game 1, you did save game 1, then came in the relief and lost it. And Nate Bryan did you in again. What can you contribute your efforts to hitting 6 home runs, 5 in the second game?
Well, I'm still. I guess I'm trying to get used to the new bat still. It's a big difference from the Sandlot sticks. So I feel like I'm starting to get in the groove now for sure. Going against Kuna, maybe shorten down my swing and focus on just hitting line drives instead of trying to hit a home run every time. So I think that did well for me, and I think it showed in the second game.
All right, so that was Jeremy Radishak, our commissioner and manager of the Gas House Gorillas, about his nightcap. So the updated standings after week 6, the Nighttime Ninjas are going to be in first place at 8-4. They're also number 1 in my power rankings. The Stallionaires are at number 2 in the standings at 6-4. They're also at number 2 in my power rankings. The Tonka Drivers are 6-6 in the 3rd place, and they're number 3 in my power rankings. And the Gas House Gorillas are 6-6 at number 4 in my power rankings. The Lightning are 4-6 at 5th place, and they're 6th in my power rankings. And in last place, the Bird Gang are 4-8, and they're in 5th in my power rankings. So if you're looking at the standings, it's pretty much not over yet for the Bird Gang and Lightning. But you're starting to see which teams are going to make the playoffs. My preseason predictions, I did predict the top 4 teams, the Ninjas, Stallionaires, Drivers, and Gorillas, all to make the playoffs. And maybe I'm right. I don't think I've ever been right before, but we'll see. But then we have our league leaders through 6 weeks. Our batting average leader is Jackson Buzia. He's hitting .490. Our home run leader is Ethan Arve with 14, closely followed by Jeremy Radishak at 13. Our RBI leader, Ethan Arve at 43. He's actually very close to breaking a record, single season record. Matt Kuna holds the record for RBIs in a single season last year with 66. So he only needs 24 more to break that record, and he's on pace to do so this season. On base percentage also goes to Jackson Buzia. He's at 600. ERA goes to David Kunapasic. He's at 1.79. And to qualify for these standings, let me need to clarify that you need at least 6 games played on the list. Then strikeouts on the mound, Ethan Arve has 28. Wins, Jim Tucker 6-1, so he has the most wins in the league. And then saves and blown saves, David Kunapasic is 3 for 3. So those are our league leaders for the season thus far. I don't see much changes. There might be a little bit jockeying for position. But the home run race is really tight. The RBI race is almost over. The ERA race is tight. On-base percentage, batting average, saves, and strikeouts are all pretty tight. So we'll see if there's any movement for the last 4 weeks of the season. So enough about what happened for the first 6 weeks. Let's talk about what's going to happen in week number 7. In the first 2 games at 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., the Lightning will take on the Nighttime Ninjas. For the Lightning, I believe they'll throw Andrew Felde in Game 1, and if Derek Rivas shows, he'll be in Game 2. And then for the Nighttime Ninjas, I believe they'll go with Kabaki in Game 1, and then Arve in Game 2. So a little bit of the storylines heading into this game. Can Kabaki get out of this slump? Their team is really good. They're in first place this season. He was doing very good early in the season. He was one of the early MVP candidates and one of the early favorites to make it as an all-star team. But all of a sudden, since the NWLA tournament, he's kind of slumped. So we'll see if he can get out of this slump he's got himself in and help his team contribute to a championship possibly this season. And then there's also a matchup problem for the Lightning. Can the Lightning pitchers, speaking of Felde, Rivas, Lickkeys, are they able to get out Ethan Arve? Ethan Arve has been tearing the league up this season with crazy power numbers, 14 home runs, 43 RBIs. So that's going to be a big matchup to watch out for. Lightning pitchers versus Ethan Arve, or in general, the Lightning pitchers against the Nighttime Ninjas lineup, because that Ninjas lineup, when they're clicking, they're hitting. And then, so can the Capital, and the Lightning got a win last week. They could have got 2. They were really close. It was 50-50 in both games. So will they capitalize on last week's success and maybe get a game here today? Sunday? Not too sure, but they're going to need to get something going. If they lose these 2 games, they're pretty much in trouble in trying to get into the playoffs. And then ever since Derek Rivas joined the Lightning, he's been doing pretty well. He's hitting 417 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. He's 1-0 in 8 innings pitched with a 4 ERA, so he's done pretty well to start his campaign coming in the middle of the season for the Lightning. So a good surprise there for the Lightning. And then right now the Lightning need the Lickies more than ever. They need Garrick and Travis to help them succeed if they want to make the playoffs. Without them, I don't think they're going to be going anywhere very soon. And then for the Nighttime Ninjas, Sammy Kruchek has been a silent assassin after hitting over 500 last season. This year he's hitting 429 with 3 home runs and 9 RBIs, and he's a 1-0 with 7 innings pitched and a 2.86 ERA. Not much rumbling. Everyone knows who he is. He's a good player. He's just been really just silent assassin, just like his team is part of the Ninjas. He's a nighttime ninja. So he creeps up on you, and when you least expect it, there's a home run right in front of your face. And then, so my predictions for those 2 games. The Nighttime Ninjas have been prone to lose a game to an inferior opponent, such as the Lightning. They lost to the Bird Gang this season once in a split where they could have won both games. And but I don't believe that's going to happen this week. In Game 1, I have the Nighttime Ninjas winning 8-5. And in Game 2, I have the Nighttime Ninjas winning 4-0 over the Lightning. So I predict the Nighttime Ninjas will sweep and go to 10-4 after these 2 games. In our second 2 games, the Stallionaires are going to take on the Bird Gang. In the first game, I believe David Kunapasek will throw for the Stallionaires. And for the Bird Gang, I think they'll throw Lucas Baker. And in the second game, I believe the Stallionaires will throw Nate Bryan, and for the Bird Gang, Nick Troush, or Matt Zarowski. Stallionaires pitching finally had a dent in its armor last week. They gave up 9 runs to basically Jeremy Radishak and the Gas House Gorillas. Will they start to even out, or will they keep up with their historic pace? I'm betting on they're going to keep up their historic pace because they've been on fire. This is their MO this season. They've been a great pitching team. So I believe last week was just a fluke. A 9-0 loss was just a fluke. I don't think they're going to get blown out like that at all for the rest of the season. But their hitting hasn't been very good this season. So they really need to turn their hitting around because they can't just rely on one side of the ball. They can't just rely on their pitching to get them to a championship this season. They're going to have to hit a little bit better in the last few weeks and going into the playoffs than they have for the first 6 weeks. The Bird Gang, on the other hand, has seemed to start finding a winning formula. After starting off 1-5, I believe, they have been 3-3 since, so they're starting to get the hang of things. And it's probably due to Nick Troush and the Lucas Baker coming out party. Nick Troush has been hitting 360 with 1 home run and 5 RBIs, and on the mound he's 1-1 with a 3.75 ERA. So Troush has helped them out a lot. And then Lucas Baker's quietly becoming one of the league's best players. He's definitely in the top 5 he's got a 449 batting average, and he's drove in 16 RBIs. So he's definitely helping his team out after getting adjusted to the league. So this is going to be a good matchup. I believe the Stallionaires can pitch lights out. I'm going with an upset this week. I believe their hitting will cost them a game this week. So I'm going to have these 2 teams split. In Game 1, I believe the Bird Gang are going to win 3-1 over the Stallionaires. And in Game 2, I believe the Stallionaires are going to win 5-1 over the Bird Gang. So I'm going to have these 2 teams split. The Stallionaires are going to go to 7-5, and the Bird Gang is going to go to 5-9. So the Bird Gang still have a chance to get in the playoffs, but they're going to have to win out if my predictions hold true. And in our nightcap for the week, the Taka Drivers will take on, once again, the Gas House Gorillas in a nightcap. I mean, they are the 3-time defending champions, but I've heard some chatter that a little too many nightcaps for the Gas House Gorillas. These 2 teams also played in the last nightcap. They split those games. And one of those 2 games were really exciting. Ryan Voges hit a walk-off home run. That was basically the coming out party for the Taka Drivers, basically saying that we're here to play and we're ready to play. And this week I have Buzz and Voges going in 1-2. And then the Gas House Gorillas, I have Tucker, and if Gallagher comes, 1-2. Both teams are 6-6, so these games are going to be very crucial for both teams. If one team can sweep the other, they're going to put themselves in a good position to make the playoffs easily. And if the other team loses those 2 games, they're in trouble because the Lightning and Bergen are going to start nipping at their heels. So it's a big series for these two. And even if they split 7-7, that still gives the other 2 teams behind them a chance to catch up. So this is a very, very important nightcap for the playoff race. Remember that. On the Gashouse Gorilla side, Jeremy Radishek is starting to catch fire. He had 6 home runs last week. And once he starts catching fire, he can carry an offense. So Ataka drivers need to really plan out and see where Radishek can't hit the ball. They got to scout him really well. I know not many people are scouting in wiffle ball, but they really got to take notice of where he doesn't like to hit. So, but he can hit everywhere. He's an all-around player. So it's going to be very hard for the Taka drivers against Jeremy Radishek this week. And so the Taka drivers are actually looking for their first sweep this week. They've had a little bit to say about it. I asked them last week about it. This is what the Taka drivers, Chris Bartley, Ryan Bogas, and Jackson Buzia, had to say about not being able to sweep a team thus far this season and just split every game every week. This is what they had to say.
Another split today for the Taka drivers. Is there any way you guys are going to sweep someone this season?
It's not looking like it. We're in the tough part of our schedule right now, so a split's not too bad against the Nighttime Ninjas. But when we get to the weak part, we definitely need to take advantage of that.
Chris?
I'm going to have to agree with our manager there. He leads us, and we just follow him, and that's pretty accurate what he said. Ryan?
We're going to sweep.
Oh, bold words from Ryan Bogas.
I don't know what we're going to sweep.
We're going to sweep.
But we're going to sweep
At some point, we're going to sweep. We're not calling anybody out.
We're getting at least 2 sweeps before the season.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that was the Taka drivers team. This should be an exciting nightcap. I predict that both teams would love to sweep each other, but they're going to split these 2 games. These two teams are too evenly matched. The Taka drivers are proving that they're one of the league's better teams, and the Gashouse Gorillas are still one of the league's best teams, but just haven't been able to show much promise thus far this season. So in the first game, I have the Taka drivers winning 4-2 over the Gashouse Gorillas, and in the second game, I have the Gashouse Gorillas winning 7-4 over the Taka drivers. So if my predictions are correct, the playoff race will look like this after Week 7. The Nighttime Ninjas will be in first place at 10-4. The Stallionaires will be in second place at 7-5. The Taka drivers and Gashouse Girls will be tied at 7-7. The Bergang will be 5-9, and the Lightning will be 4-8. That's if they come true. A lot of things can change. I'm not right 100% of the time. I'm mainly right like 45% of the time, so we'll see how that goes. And then we already talked about the record watch for Ethan Arve, 24 more RBIs, and he breaks last year's Kuna's 2014 record. So keep an eye on that in the upcoming weeks. And that's all we got for week number 7 and inside the GBL. Might have been a short week, not many storylines after the bye week, so we're hoping for some more storylines coming into next week. Next week's inside the GBL, we're going to have a couple of people on talking about the NWLA tournament. We're going to have a couple of articles about that as well coming out very soon. I'm glad to be back after a long break. Wiffle out, guys. Wiffle out.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long